Hi, back again with another video on this Marantz SD333. I ordered new counterbelts and I'm going to show you how we go about replacing those. I had put previous videos together on doing the flywheel and the reverse belts, so you can take a look at that if needed. This one you've got to do a bit more work to dissect this thing. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove the eject latch on the left-hand side there. And then you're going to have to take off the magnetic bracket and also the spring bracket. That will allow us to start working on moving the transport out. You've got a couple of screws on this cover plate. We're going to take a couple of screws off the top of this circuit board as well. We're going to have to lift that up. There's a metal shield plate that's underneath here that we're going to have to get out in order to get access to a few cables that we're going to have to disconnect. So we'll be taking those screws off and this little pin. So we'll start by removing the cover over the circuit board. There's a couple of screws there, and then you can remove that and set the plate aside. Then you've got to get the spring disattached and then remove the bracket that holds the spring. Then you've got a metal bracket that will hit the magnet on the lower part of the base when the transport is fully extended. Remove that bracket and screw. Then off to the left-hand side, you've got a bracket that's used to engage and clip into the eject lever. So you've got to remove that bracket off to the left. So moving over to this circuit board, you've got 3 screws on the top you've got to remove, and then there's some wire connectors that will come along with that you've got to remove. Then you'll be able to pull this board up. As you can see, there's a little bit of flexibility in the harnesses and wires that are there. But if you look on the side, there's a little plastic push pin clip that you're going to have to remove. So I do that usually with an X-Acto blade or something sharp that you can get underneath it and pry it out. And then you'll notice that there's probably a shield, an audio shield, a metal plate underneath there. You're going to have to get out. So carefully work that out. Keep an eye out where the wiring is at so that you can get back in there. And then back over to the transport, you've got to pull that circuit board up. So here's a look at some of the connectors we're going to have to remove. So those look like the audio cables that are going to the head. Those are going to have to be removed. And then we're going to have to remove these connectors. There's a flat ribbon connector. There's a couple of them actually. There's a couple of connectors on the corner of this board and then one on the back left corner as well. So we're going to have to remove all of those. So I've sped this up a little bit, but here we go, starting to remove all of those cables now, and gently pry those things off. Be careful you don't bend or break anything. And there are a couple of flat ribbon cables as well as all of the pin connectors that you're going to have to remove. And once those are all removed, that board assembly can be relocated to the back and allow us to pull the transport out. So we've got all of those disconnected, and now we're going to move over to where those 2 audio cables are, and there's a couple of them there that you're going to have to remove as well. Pay attention to where all this stuff is, but I thought it was kind of error-proofed in terms of this stuff could only go back in one location, so hopefully that's the case. So with the cables all disconnected, you can set the circuit board to the rear and gently set those cables down underneath, and then you'll be able to pull the entire transport forward out of the opening. Again, be careful with those wires. You don't want to break or tear anything up in the process here. So with the transport out, we're going to have to remove some screws here to get it completely out of there. There's 4 on the bottom, 3 on the side here, and there's 4 on this side as well, and that will allow us to separate the plastic carrier from the transport itself. So we'll remove the 4 screws on the bottom, and that plate should then slide forward, and you'd be able to remove that after all those screws are removed. And I've sped this up a little bit, but it's just so that you can see that. You got 3 on this side to remove as well. And all of these screws are holding that metal transport frame in place. And there's 4 of them to do on this side. And then we'll be able to get the transport out of there. So get those screws away. And I think what happens here is that you've got to pull the control panel forward slightly. Yeah, let me turn this on the side. Yep, remove the plate, pull the transport control panel forward slightly, and gently work the transport away from the plastic frame. So now we've got access to the frame. So with the transport out, you can see the counter belts. There's one up on top there. It goes to an intermediate pulley, and then down below it'll come up front all the way to the counter. And I've drawn a picture of that here so you could see it and illustrate it maybe better. There's the 2 drive mechanisms up on top. It goes to this intermediate pulley, and then the lower pulley extends out in front to the counter. So it's easy to remove the upper belt. Getting the lower belt out is a little bit tricky. So the way I attacked that was to pull it off the front pulley first, and then I had a little wire hook that I used to go into the opening and grab the belt and pull it out through the front and through the top there. So that's removing the old one. And the way I went after the install was kind of reverse. Extended the wire with the hook up into the opening, put the belt on it, drag the belt forward, and then looped it around the intermediate pulley, let it fall to the bottom, and I had to coax it along a little bit with the screwdriver there to get it onto the lower pulley and get it aligned properly. And once it's in place, then tighten, pull it forward a little bit, and then by hand manage to put that belt around the pulley on the front of the counter there. Sorry for the hands in the way, but make sure that that thing's not twisted anywhere and that it's working smoothly. And then putting the upper belt on is a piece of cake. You just got to get around the pulley there and then around the drive mechanism, and you're in good shape. So we're all back together here. If Marantz had just made this plate removable here, we could replace those counter belts quite easily, but it's quite a process to have to go through to get the counter belts out of there and get them replaced. So hope this video helped. Here's a tape I recorded on this to test it out, and we'll play that for you here. So I hope this helped. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.